Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to another episode live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg and the Genesis class. And we're joined by many people, as always, in the Zoom room from around the planet. Always good to see the McConaughey's with us in the UK. I see we've got Michaela P. from, I believe you're in Germany, and our little buddy Timothy Klein in Nova Scotia. Timothy, always good to see you. I see that beard's getting longer, buddy. Anyways, it's always a joy to be with Rabbi Goldberg. We missed him last week. His schedule didn't allow for it, but it's always a joy to be back and hear the light of Torah, especially in the early books of Genesis, share deep with us. And this class has been dear to me. We've been going at it for a couple of years. So let's just jump right in and see how the rabbi's doing. Rabbi, you're live on the air. It's your class. We're going to turn it over to you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening from Jerusalem. Here in Jerusalem, it's not the morning like in Timothy and your place, Angelica. We already have the night of this day. I hope everything is good with everybody. We have a very good time in Israel here. Very interesting time. By the way, the coronavirus is coming back.
Oh, we're sorry to hear.
This is life. Another 2 weeks and a half. I think it's Thursday. Almost.
When are you going to the U.S., Rabbi? I wanted to give a shout out. Today is Independence Day in the United States, the 4th of July. So a shout to all our American friends down there.
Yes, this is true. Today is the Independence Day. Another 2 weeks from now, Tuesday night, we are on the airplane and on the way to the United States, and. We're going to, I think the banquet that they're doing is very...
in Tennessee, yeah.
It's going to be very... I need to buy a black tie, I don't have. But maybe as an Israeli person, I can come a bit, different than everybody else. But we're going to be there. It's going to be excited. I'm sure that it's going to be excited. And I hope that we will have some videos that will go out also. Maybe Beautiful. It will be as a TV show or something. Maybe, who knows that?
I'll try and reach Shara and see if we can. I know she's broadcasting it where they've got they're selling tickets for a virtual event for the Rabbi Singer's speech, the banquet. They want like $23 just to view it. But I'll try and reach out to her and see if she wants it streamed.
Also, if you will stream it after that, it's also good. It's also good. Let's dive inside. I think that I organized with Lee. Lee is supposed to come also. And I think Excellent. That this week, next week, we're going to finish the Brit Shalom book. There are more and more languages of the Brit Shalom, and people are getting this more and more. And thank God, this thing and this movement is going up, thank God. And we all are doing part of a big movement that is growing and getting more foot in the ground. This is how you say it, right? More foot in the ground. And the
footprint, yeah.
Let's start. Let's dive inside. I think that we spoke about what I'm going to say tonight, but it's so the essential. I'm not sure that we spoke about it, but I need to clarify this point. So we're going to say this. Let me share the screen and let's start to go inside straight to the. Where is it? Okay, straight to the verses. We spoke that there is a very important agreement between Abraham and God. The first thing that we need to know is that every agreement that happened between God and one of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it was one-way ticket. God said that he is promising something, that's it. He never asked from Abraham or Isaac or Jacob that
conditions,
they will give any conditions for that, and that they will also get insight to this thing. He said that this is what is going to happen, that's it. And let's read for a moment the first 6 verses here.
First 6 verses.
Yes.
1. After these incidents, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am your shield. Your reward is exceedingly great. And Abram said, O Lord, what will you give me, since I am going childless, and the steward of my household is Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, Behold, you have given me no seed, and behold, one of my household will inherit me. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, saying, This one will not inherit you, but the one who will spring from your innards, he will inherit you. And he took him outside, and he said, Please look heavenward and count the stars, if you are able to count them. And he said to him, So will be your seed. And he believed in the Lord, and he accounted it to him as righteousness. And that's it.
That's it.
Verse 6.
That's it. The main thing I wanted to go here, except for this, again, this is some sort of an agreement, okay, between God and Abraham, and the continuous, it will be even more established.
The promise, sure.
Promise that God is going to do some actions, to ask from Abraham to do some actions to bring this promise to life. But the most important thing here that people don't really notice is those few words. And he, Abraham, okay, believed in God, believed in the Lord. In Hebrew, we say "V'he'emin b'Hashem." This is the first time in the Bible that we have this word to believe in God. First time in the Bible. Okay, we are already in chapter 15.
Because it's intricate with the promise, yes?
First of all, so let's take a few words about what is to believe. I will say it like that because in the Christian world, I'm sorry that I'm going to say this, but this is...
You have to from time to time, Rabbi. I get it.
There's a saying in the Christian world, credo qua absurdum. Okay, this is in Latin. And the meaning of this is that I believe in something, even though I can't prove that it's a truth, and I even have no proof that it exists at all. And this is what I believe. This is how people believe, or this is what people explain the word believe in God. I can't believe that He exists. I can't prove that He exists. And I have no logic explanation for that. And this is why I'm using the word belief. Now, in the Hebrew language, it's not working like that at all. It never was, and this is not the understanding of this word.
Rabbi, what chapter are you in?
We are in chapter 15. Chapter 15. We came to this chapter after the big First World War that happened between the 5 kings against the 4 kings. Sodomites and also Lot got captured. Abraham chased them to the north, and he managed to conquer all of them and to bring back Sodomite back. And this is why Abraham was a bit in a fear. Okay, this is what God is saying to him. Fear not, Abraham. Why fear not? And we already showed it once. We can see this again. That after, you can read it here, okay? Read Rashi for a moment.
After these incidents, wherever the term is used, it signifies immediately afterwards. And this other word signifies a long time afterwards from Genesis Rabbah 44:5. After this miracle had been wrought for him, that he slew the kings, he was worried and said, Perhaps I have received reward for all my righteous deeds. Therefore, the Omnipresent said to him, Fear not, Abraham, I am your shield from punishment, that you will not be punished for all the souls that you have slain. And as far as your being worried about receiving reward, your reward is exceedingly great.
So this is a situation where we are. Abraham had a very big fight. He managed to capture all of them. He managed to bring back Sodomite and put them in their place back. Also Lot, his nephew, he managed to rescue Lot. And now Abraham was a bit afraid. This is where God is saying to him, don't be afraid. This is how This is what the verse is saying. Fear not, Abraham. Okay, don't be afraid. So we need to understand why Abraham was afraid. But here God is saying to him, it's okay. So Abraham is asking him, but I'm not, I don't have any future. My future is nothing because I have no kids that will continue me. Therefore, I'm the dead end of my destiny. I want to remind us all a few things that we spoke much earlier. And here we're coming back to the word of belief. And I will explain this. First of all, let me say those words because so we won't forget it.
Shalom,
okay?
friend.
When we're saying here that Abraham believed in God, what we're saying, and this is something that happened also to the Hebrew people along history. He believed in God, that God will fulfill his promises. God promised him that he will have a son. Abraham, at this point of time, he was 70 years old, not even 75. He was 70 years old. And he believed that God will fulfill his promise. And this is what we're saying. It's not that we're speaking, I think that we said it more than once. The Bible is not expecting us to be against our logic and our brain. This is one of the most wrong things that people have. I don't know why. I really don't know why it's coming. God created us as human, and he also created us with a very amazing brain that we have, and we understand a lot of things in this world. Nothing in the Bible that God created the Bible, God created all of this universe, nothing can have contradiction between those two. And if something is in our mind and we understand this in one way, it can't be that the Bible or that God will say words that will be contradicted to those things, because God is one, and also we as human, we are one people, okay, one unit. We can't have something that we believe in something that it's not it's not explainable. It can't be explained. So if it can't be explained, so go and investigate and don't believe in nonsense. Try to think. Use your brain. Use your brain. You have a brain. Okay. When we're saying he believed in God, what we're saying basically is that Abraham believed that God Almighty is going to fulfill this promise. And he expected, this is the word belief, he expected when this will happen. And now you can think about all the destinies along history for 2,000 years of people, of the Hebrew people, who were all over the diaspora and moving from one place to another. And why do we say that they believed? They believed that the prophets that said that the Hebrew people will return back to the homeland, those things will happen. And it happened. Maybe it took 2,000 years, but it happened. So this is what they believed. They believed that the truth of the words of God that came to us through the prophets will happen. So this is the first point I must say. Now I want to go to another stage, and it's very important also to understand what is the discussion here between Abraham and God. And I want to remind us, because what's happening here in those 6 verses, this is what is happening to almost every person in this world. Regardless if he is a Jewish person, or he is from the Christian world, or is from whatever it is. Never mind what religious he was born to, okay? And I want to remind us all, first of all, that Abraham, in the beginning, we can see this again, he was running away. I said this, if you remember, we spoke about this, I think something like 3 months ago. And there was one of our lessons, and I said, I'm going to say to you all stories that we have in our in heritage, that it's in the oral Bible, but it's not written down in the Bible. It's only hinted. And one of the things that we said is that Abraham was thrown to the gas chambers of Nimrod in those days. Not only Abraham, all of the Hebrew people. There was a nation. By the way, this is also something that we know today through the archaeology, that there was a nation that was called the Hebrew nation. They were sitting mainly in Syria and also in the Iraq area. And we have a lot of, what do we call it, papyrus and those things, small things that they were, notes that they were bringing one from each other and everything else. And there was a very strong nation. And when Nimrod came or became a king, the king of the Babylon, he decided to destroy this Hebrew nation. And he threw them to the gas chambers of those days, okay? And this is what we see also hinted in, yes, but it's a, no. I want to show for a moment the verse that God is saying to him. Let me remember where it is. God is saying to him, I took you out from Ur-Kazim, from the Ur of the Chaldeans. Okay, it says the chapter before that. Just a moment. Here it is. Let's see. Okay. No. Oh, it is. Please read verse number 7. Okay, so, well, and we said this is hinting that Abraham was thrown also to the gas chambers of those days, and he managed to escape. He managed to escape. And we said also in the last chapter, I will go back to the last chapter, and I want to show this in Rashi, where we have this big fight, okay? This big fight between the 4 kings and the 5 kings. Let's read for a moment verse number 10, and then we need also to read Rashi for that. Please read verse number 10.
10. Now the valley of Siddim was composed of many clay pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, and they fell there, and the survivors fled to a mountain. And Rashi says many clay pits. There were many pits from which they took earth for the clay for building. In the Midrashic explanation is that the clay was needed in them, i.e. in the pits. And the miracle was wrought for the king of Sodom that he escaped from there, because some of the nations did not believe that Abram had been saved from Ur of the Chaldees from the fiery furnace. But since this one escaped from the clay, they believed in Abraham retroactively.
Okay, so it's not written down in the
explicitly.
Bible exactly, but it's hinted in few places in the Bible. So Abraham and his parents and those who were left from the gas chambers of Nimrod, they ran away to Israel. They did. This is the first step. Now, we know that Abraham, in the first 3 years of his life, we spoke about this, he was in a cave, and he believed in God. And this is what is happening usually to people until between the age of 3 and 5, that they believe in some sort of almighty, something big, something very, some sort of a God, okay, that is helping and assisting. Now, why this is a very nature thing for kids between the age of 3 and 5, because they also see their parents, and they know that they are they're supposed to get help from their parents, from the oldest people. So they're asking themselves, from whom my parents also are getting some sort of help. So this is more or less, in the beginning, everybody understand that there is some sort of a God, but with the understanding of a child that he is only between 3 to 5 to 6, 7 years old, the main way that he understands what is God, he understands in a idolatry God. Okay, if you will ask him, he will say to you, God is in up in heaven. God is something that the mind of a child, of a young child, is some sort of idolatry mind of who is God. Let's continue on. And this is the stage where Abraham is standing now. This is very important what I'm going to say now. Alright? In chapter 15. The stage, in those 6 verses, the stage that Abraham is standing is, and the stage that he believes in God, but in what God does he believe? He believes in God that is controlling the nature and the laws of nature. Now, when you believe in this level, Abraham, when he's looking, with a very clear eye to what's happening, he understands that the Hebrew people, most of them got killed in the gas chambers of the
furnaces,
in the Chaldees there. And he is the dead end of this
lineage,
of this nation.
Line,
and this is what he is saying in verse number 2. What are you going to give me? When I'm looking on what's happening in the world, and every nation have their, beginning, the peak, and then it's finishing. I'm at the end of this nation. I have no children. I can't continue on. My nation is not going to be. This is what Abraham believes in, the nature world, the nature laws. And this is where Abraham is saying, so this is the dead end. We can say something similar in Europe today, where the people understand that they're not bringing more and more kids. Europe is one of the places where you have more elders population and
we're
less.
seeing this here in Canada as well.
Aging
population.
By the way, this is also another hint of this situation, is where you can see suddenly where, I don't know how do you say it in English, those words exactly, but all these movements that is accepting the same sexual connections, okay? Men and men and woman and woman. Because if this is the end of this period of time, so we don't need to bring more people to this world. We need more maybe to enjoy for ourselves. This is some sort of a understanding of the end of a culture. And this is where Abraham is saying, is presenting himself now. This is what he believes. He believes in God. He believes in one God, but this God is, I will say, inside the nature and is captured under the understanding how the laws of nature are working. And now look for a moment what exactly God is answering him. Please read verse number 4.
Number 4, and behold, the word of the Lord came to him, saying, this one will not inherit you, but the one who will spring from your innards, he will inherit you.
God is asking him, I'm asking you to go out one step from your
stretch your
mind,
belief, stretch your
to break your roof ceiling. Start to break your roof ceiling. Don't stay in your mind, because when you're staying in your mind, this is, I will say,
limited
the destiny of you where you're going. If you will manage to break your roof ceiling, God will give you more and more
expand your horizon. Sure.
Exactly. So let's read for a moment verse number 5, but then we're going to read it with Rashi.
And he took him outside, and he said, please look heavenward and count the stars, if you are able to count them. And he said, so will be your seed.
Now we must read Rashi for that, because you can't really understand this verse without Rashi. Please.
And he took him outside. According to its simple meaning, he took him out of his tent, outdoors to see the stars. But according to its midrashic interpretation, he said to him, go out of your astrology, for you have seen in the signs of the zodiac that you are not destined to have a son. Indeed, Abraham will have no son, but Abraham will have a son. Similarly, Sarai will not give birth, but Sarah will give birth. I will give you another name, and your destiny will change. From
Okay,
Genesis,
this is
Rabbi.
enough. This is enough.
Yeah,
This is enough.
44:10.
Yes, we don't need to read the rest. The rest is on the same idea. What God is saying to him, he's saying to him, listen, you're more than right. If you're looking on this world under the conditions of the nature and the laws of nature and all of those things, you won't have kids. You are the end of this
Lineage.
nation, of the
Yeah.
Hebrew nation. But I'm going to do something very, very tricky. Let's say God is saying like that. I'm going to give you a secret that you have the possibility to get connected with the source of the laws of nature. And when you will come to this situation, you can change your destiny. We will change your name. Go out from the astrology. What is astrology? In those days, this was the laws of nature. Everything is under the stars, whatever the stars are saying. Till today, there are people who believe in astrology. God is saying to him, you're right. The laws of nature are very strict, but you have the possibility to go out from this level, to open your roof ceiling, to expand your horizon, and to change your names, Abraham and Sarah. And then both of you are going to bring here to this world something new, much bigger than what happened in the Hebrew people then. And this new destiny of the Hebrew people that you're going to bring up is going to be on the level that is much bigger than the nature of the world and the laws of nature, how they are working with all of the other nations. And this is where, and I'm asking you again, when we are interpreting and when we are trying to move this to other languages, we are missing things. Here suddenly we're coming back to the words of the main name of God, not the word Elohim, okay, the one that is working with the nature or holding the nature that will stay in the laws of nature. Now we're moving to the word Yud K Vav K. This is the main. Well, you all know this, the Yehovah. Okay, you've heard about this. Those people believe in this name. This name is the Almighty name, the one that is controlling also the nature, above the nature. Who decided how the nature will become or will be appear in front of us? And this is what Abraham is moving to this stage. He is moving to another stage. And he understands suddenly that he can move on to a much higher level. And he's expecting for this promise that will come. Another 2 chapters, God is going to change his name, change the name of Sarah, to bring the 3 angels that will come and tell him that he is going to have a son. And he will manage to bring something new to this world, not just to bring the same thing that was before that, the people
Natural
of
child or descendant. Yeah.
yes.
More
So
than
we
just
have
a natural
in Abraham
descendant.
3 levels. The level of the childhood, who believes in God like a child. This was when he was 3 years old and everything else. The level of believing that there is one God, but we are still under the conditions of this world, and the level of believing in God who created this world. And he can change also the nature for the Hebrew people. Where do we see that he changed the nature for the Hebrew people in the most absolute way? When he cracked down the sea. When they went out from Egypt, he cracked down the sea to 2. We split it to two sides, and they went inside the sea. What our sages are showing us with a very interesting way when they're playing with the verses, they're showing that it happened with Abraham, and the same word is appearing again when God is splitting the sea to 2, and the Hebrew people are passing inside while the Egyptians are being caught inside the water. There are twice that the word is vayivaka. God is splitting the sea to two, but also Abraham said Vayvakam. Because Abraham managed to go up to this level, in a few chapters, this is why God also brought this level of controlling the nature for the Hebrew people. Since then, we are in this level of belief. Now today, I'm saying, okay, everybody can come to this belief, especially when you look on what happened to the Hebrew nation, and you're getting, and you participate with the Hebrew nation. And this is already the way of the Noahide and all of those things, right? But it's not only just, it's very nice to learn a lot of things in the Hebrew Bible, but we're not speaking only on this level. The main level is also getting connected with the Hebrew people who are living in this level. I was clear enough? I think, I hope, I don't know. I asked, are there any questions?
I can follow you, Rabbi, no problem. I've heard you speak enough. I'm enjoying you sharing, like with your Thailand Noahide group. You're reaching out to the Chinese. You're sharing things you've shared with this group, but you're coming out so much crystal clear because it's like studied for sure.
Okay, thanks. Yes, you can use it also. We'll speak about this later on. Yes, okay. Are there any questions for things that we spoke? Very clear things, but if there are any questions, so.
It's not really a question, but I just find these words that you just spoke so powerful. Like, they are so powerful. I can't.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
Okay, thank you. It's not my words. I'm just, bringing the words of God and the Bible to all of us here. Well, the things that I got from my rabbis to bring them here to all of the people around the world.
And who is your rabbi, Rabbi?
Who is asking that? Dan?
That's me.
Okay. I have mainly two big rabbis. One is, his name is Rabbi Chaim Drukman. I don't think you've heard about him. He's one of the greatest rabbis here in Israel. He's very old today, almost 90 years old. And I learned from him more than 20 years. Yes, very, very long time. And I'm
How do you spell his last name?
Drukman. Drukman. He was also in the Holocaust. He survived the Holocaust. And then he came to Israel, but he is one of the main rabbis today that I will say it like that, Benjamin Netanyahu got his advices more than once when he had the problems, when he was the prime minister. And then the second rabbi that I'm with him also already more than 20 years, Rabbi Uri Sherki, the head of the Noahide World Center. And today I'm blessed to be his right hand.
Is he in with Or Etzion Yeshiva?
Exactly. Oh, very nice to it. Oh, it's in Yeshiva. This is Rabbi Chaim Drukman. He was, you need to know also who are his rabbis, but those are the people, Rabbi Sherki, Rabbi Drukman, those are the people that I'm till today very connected, learning from them, asking them, getting their advices, trying to assist and to bring out all their ideas to reality. Part of this also, by the way, is this lesson, but this is part of the things. Yes. Fine. Yes, you put it in the right way, Rabbi Chaim Drukman and Rabbi Uri Sherki. I think that you know who Rabbi Uri Sherki is. Fine. But this is a very important point. And, the one who did me the biggest test was Netzach. I see that he's not with us tonight. I don't know if you remember Netzach when we started, Netzach from Czechoslovakia,
Yes.
Czech Republic. So he said to me, okay, who are you rabbis and who are their rabbis? Okay, so Rabbi Chaim Drukman learned from the son of Rabbi Cook. It's related already to the Vilna Gaon. And Rabbi Uri Sherki also learned from the same rabbi and also from two other rabbis. And there's also the rabbi, another one of the biggest students of Rabbi Cook, the father. It's one Beit Midrash that is related to the Vilna Gaon. Okay, now it's also related to my, I will say, my great-grandfather was also a very big rabbi, also in the United States, by the way. in the Yeshiva University. He was he was the head of the Yeshiva University in the last century, and then others replaced him. So this is my destiny and my connection with the rabbis. But this is a very important thing because one of the things that it might happen to people, that people are learning all sorts of ideas that are written down. And today everything is written down in the internet, on the internet. Or you can buy the books, you can read things. But if you have no one to ask, to speak, the main thing is that our Bible, okay, the written one and the oral one, it's also being passed from one rabbi to a student. And you need to have someone to check and to speak and to discuss if you understand everything or if you have questions. If you don't have anyone to ask, so it's like a cult. Okay, I'm saying hard things, but I will say them. So we need to know that, and this is a great time to pass on to Lee Fogel. Yes, this is the picture of Rabbi Chaim. This is a great time to pass on the microphone to Lee Fogel. From now on, he will speak. We can't hear you, Lee. What happened? Lee, what is happening with you? Maybe
you're still on mute.
Hello, is it better now?
Oh, now we can hear you. Yes.
Okay,
fine.
let there be sound. So Rabbi Uri Shek, he said, taking what Rabbi Chaim just mentioned to an extreme, he says, even to learn Torah is forbidden if you do not have a rabbi, because you take the sources out of their context.
Right.
That's why Rabbi Shirky so strongly emphasizes the oral tradition. Things can be taken very much out of context and misunderstood and taken to very
you get fade
places.
Yeah.
Right. If the message is not transmitted properly, and this is why the teacher-student relationship is so important. So Shavua Tov, everybody. I apologize for the gap in our learning. Rabbi Chaim mentioned to me we have, as you all may know, in 2 weeks the commemoration of the destruction of the temple, Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of Av. So we're holding in the final chapter, actually, of Brit Shalom. I was hoping that we can make some headway today and maybe finish up the book next week. I'll start sharing my screen. I'm not able to share. It says host disabled sharing. I don't know who is the host.
Rabbi Goldberg.
Rabbi Chaim. And now I'm able to share. Great. Okay, so I hope you all can see my screen now. Just showing you where we're holding. We're in the last of the chapters, what I called man and self. The final chapters we spoke, even chapter 13 was more on the commandment level. The final chapter is talking about ethical conduct. It really reminds me of part of the oral tradition, part of the Mishnah that we've mentioned many times, called Ethics of the Fathers, Pirkei Avot. It speaks more about character development, and you'll see what we mean as soon as we dive in. We'll just take a moment. I think it was Lisette who asked that we take a brief moment to offer a prayer before our learning, to increase our intention during our learning, that it should help us to be better people and to be better members of our families and communities, and that it should be for the betterment of the nation of Israel and the entire world. So, chapter 14 starts with the following verses: "And you shall do what is right and good, Lord." From Micah, he has told you, O man, what is good and what the Lord requires of you, only to do justice and to love goodness and to walk modestly with your God. So you'll see here, it's talking a lot about character traits, things to emphasize, things to de-emphasize. And obviously this is a lifelong endeavor. So clause 1 starts as follows. It's stated in the Torah, what does the Lord your God ask of you? Only to fear the Lord your God, to walk in all of his ways and to love him. Deuteronomy. The sages explained, what does it mean to walk in his ways? How does one walk in the ways of God? Just as he is merciful, you too should be merciful. Just as he is charitable, you too should be charitable. Just as he clothes the naked, you too should clothe the naked. And the general principle is that a person should perform all of his deeds and activities ethically and with integrity in a manner that he likens himself to the Creator, walking in paths that are good and straight. We also have verses that we read often in the prayer service. They're verses that come from the book of Shemot, from the book of Exodus, and Maimonides explains that this was the conversation taking place between Moses Rabbeinu, Moses and God on Mount Sinai. Moses basically asks God to show him his ways, and this is what we're trying to find out here as well. Right? It says here in the verse 13, "Pray, let me know your ways, so that I may know you, so that I may find favor in your eyes." Let me just highlight it here so you all see it. Okay, and then it says, "And consider that this nation is your people." Rabbi Sherki explains, why was Moses asking God to know his ways? And he explains that Moses wanted to lead the Jewish people in a successful manner. So he said, just as you, God, are successful in leading your people, now you're putting this in my hands. And so show me the attributes through which, show me the ways in which you do this so that I may be successful with your people. And Maimonides explains that these ways, how did God answer him? So it's in the next chapter. And these are the 13 attributes of mercy that God revealed to Moses. And it says, and the Lord passed, verse 6, the Lord passed before him and proclaimed, Lord, Lord. It says, again, this is the name of God. It's called Shem Havaya, the Tetragrammaton, I think it's called in English. It has a particular meaning in the Hebrew, and this is where things are lost in translation, because Lord has a very different connotation. Never mind. It says, Lord, Lord, benevolent God, who is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness and truth. And our sages go to explain how each one of these attributes has a different connotation in the general theme of mercy. There's a wonderful book. It's called Tomer Dvora. And in this book, it's I believe it's Rabbi Moses Cordovero, one of the rabbis of the Arizal, of the founders of the modern Kabbalah, who goes into each one of these nuances in mercy. But in any event, we see here that this is how our sages are expounding this verse in Deuteronomy. We're trying to imbue ourselves with attributes of mercy, and Rabbi Sherki doesn't mention it here. One of them is also, as we see in the verse, being slow to anger. It's called erech apayim, one who is slow to anger. Different angles in the prism of mercy. Bringing it down a little bit more to the practical level. Clause number 2. Therefore, a person should scrutinize his deeds and his character traits and examine the qualities of his soul to see if he is walking in these paths. You can call this also repentance. You can call this, the masters of character development call this cheshbon hanefesh, basically doing a calculation with one's soul. And I had the great privilege to see people who do this either on a daily or weekly or monthly basis. Certainly, in the Jewish calendar, we have the month of Elul. The month of Elul is the month just leading up to the high holidays of Rosh Hashanah, the New Year, and Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. And it's particularly in this month that our sages teach that God is looking all the more so for people to do this calculation and to return to the right path in all the different avenues of their life. But it takes a great deal of pausing and obviously concentration. Hang on one second. I see some flashing. I just want to see if it's directly pertinent here. The share screen is only on Dan. Okay, but I can see the share screen. Clause number 3, among the good traits that a person should acquire for himself are love for people, generosity, courage, a pleasant appearance. This might sound like a surprise to some. Humility, a pleasant demeanor, shyness, compassion, joyfulness, tranquility, speaking well of others, being content with little, meaning, right, not needing too many frivolities in life, being, making do with, I guess, call it the bare minimum, but making do with less. Restraint, alacrity, meaning eagerness and drive and initiative, aspiration, integrity and kindness. So there may be even some, as I said, there's some of the attributes here that might be a bit of a surprise. For example, a pleasant appearance. I heard of rabbis who, before they go up to speak to a crowd, they tidy themselves up. They don't want to look disheveled. You say, what does this have to do with the holiness of a rabbi? But our tradition teaches that no, a person who is holy, a person, one of the ways in which a person climbs up the ladder of holiness. This teaches Mesilat Yesharim. I don't know how to translate it into English. It's another one of the classic works of character development. He talks about the attribute of nikiyut, the attribute of cleanliness. Not only does cleanliness show that this person is orderly, and therefore not only his dress and his house is orderly, but also his thoughts are ordered. Things have obviously an impact on those who see you, but also have an impact on you internally. Obviously, humility and a pleasant demeanor, a certain level of shyness doesn't mean we cower in talking to others. We need to have a certain level of healthy self-confidence, and again, humility. It's misinterpreted sometimes. Humility in the Torah tradition does not mean that I'm nothing. It means that I have wonderful tools and I have wonderful attributes and strengths. It's remembering that those attributes were given to me by God, and not only am I grateful for having all that blessing, but I'm also, with that intention, going to use those tools that God gave me to be a better person, to help those around me. One of the sages that I think we quoted in the past, it's a classic work from the around the year 1000. It's called Duties of the Heart. He says, he gives the analogy that a person is like a mashpech, a funnel. A funnel. When a person is a clean funnel, so God pours blessing into the funnel, and the funnel comes, and the blessing comes out the other end. When a person is an unclean funnel, so the blessing gets blocked, and therefore God prevents the blessing. And this is the essence of true humility according to the Torah tradition. It's not that I'm nothing. A person, there are even sages in the Talmud that say, I could save the world. Or I'm the humblest person in this room, and taken out of context or misunderstood, those statements are difficult to understand. What they were trying to mention again is as we're saying here, that I have tremendous tools. It's not that I'm the source of those tools. God is the source of those tools. But I am true to God's blessing. I'm using the blessing properly. Also being content with little. All of these attributes, they're very nuanced, and they need to be put in the right context, because so too the healthy Torah attitude is not a complete avoidance of this world. It's in fact there's holiness in this world. It is our job to sanctify the mundane. Right, is to make even having a beautiful house. That's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing if I can have a large house and it's well kept and even fancy things. Then that means I can invite more guests into my home. If I have more guest rooms, I had the privilege of staying. Had a wonderful friend in Boston. God has blessed him with tremendous wealth, and he uses this wealth for amazing things. It's a perfect example of what we're talking about here. You can see why God blesses him so much. Such a wonderful person. Hashem should keep blessing him. Okay, so I think I've belabored the point a little bit, but it's just it is important to pause on it a little bit, because some of these attributes can be taken, can be misunderstood. like that again, like we're saying, the humility means I'm nothing, and being content with little means, we're running away from physicality. It's not true. It just needs to be used properly. And we can there have been books written, and we can talk for hours about each one of these attributes. Okay, let's hang on. There's more flashing. I just want to see if Lee in English we have a saying: cleanliness is next to godliness. Perfect. So Linda says cleanliness is next to godliness. This is totally in line with what we're saying. And James says when one recognizes humility in others, that person has humility within themselves. This is also true. Our sages teach that in order for a person to truly learn, they need to have a certain amount of humility, right? Because in order for me to accept any teachings, if I'm full of pride and it means I know everything and I don't need anybody to teach me, so I won't be ready to hear new insights and new ways of developing myself. But if I know that I still have what to learn, right? It's the wise person is not the person who knows everything. It's the person who knows that they don't know anything. Really, only the imbecile thinks that he knows everything. So, right. I think everything that you're saying is in line with what we're teaching. Okay, King Solomon says this is in a different avenue, but again, keeping things in the right proportion. In Hebrew, we have the word midah. Midah has a double meaning. I'll see if I can type it on the screen. The word midah, it's very small. I can't increase the size. Okay, this is the word midah in Hebrew, and it's pronounced like this: midah. Okay, midah has two central meanings. One is a measurement. Okay, midot is like you're measuring a room, let's say, and the room has dimension. It has measurements. So too, we talk about midot tovot, that a person has traits. And it's not for nothing that in the Hebrew language, the same word is used. And our sages teach that the midot, a person's character traits, need to be put in the proper proportion. They need to be put in the proper measurement. And it's only when they're not used, it's like a recipe. Everything needs to be in the right measurement. And when things are taken out of the proper proportion, that's when, character flaws develop. Okay, so King Solomon is saying here, whoever loves money will never have enough money. Okay, this is taking, it's okay to have physical wealth, and our sources teach of sages who were incredibly wealthy. It's also in the Torah, also in later rabbinic times. It's not that money is a bad thing, but again, what we talked about. And the sages said, "Who is rich? Whoever is happy with his lot." And I heard this taught in many different ways. Not only in physical richness and physical wealth, but also a person who is content, with everything, with the job and with their family situation and with the neighborhood that they're living in, etc. A person who is constantly it's good to aspire, but the way it was once taught to me in the beginning of my path was it's good to celebrate where you are, but always remember that there's room to grow. And it's this very, very fine line of knowing to appreciate and to be content with what you have, also spiritually and also physically, and knowing that there's room to grow. Number 5, the desirable path is to adopt moderation in all character traits and not to go to extremes. Maimonides brings some exceptions to this rule. He says this with regard to all the character traits. He says with regard to anger, a person needs to do whatever in his power to train himself to avoid anger. Our sages also teach that somebody who's enveloped with anger is as if he's worshiping idols. So in this, and also with regard to humility, that a person needs to work very, very, very much on his humility and to be extremely humble. And again, this is in the sense that not taking credit for the blessing, the talent that was given to him. So in this regard, Maimonides brings some exceptions, but generally speaking, a person needs to be moderate. And with regard to character development and character growth and working on our flaws, clause 6, although it is impossible for a person to rectify all of his deeds at once, he should always make every effort to improve and become better little by little. And by doing so, he will accustom himself to walk in the good and straight path, since a person's character depends on habits, right? This is like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, right? A person needs to also work on the thinking, but also work on the behavior. And the behavior, when it becomes habitual, it ends up, and over time, it impacts the nefesh, it impacts the person's soul. So too, I think we spoke about this with regard to charity. Right, Maimonides brought the example in the Mishnah Torah, in his law book, about a person, let's say a person wants to give $1,000. Would it be better to give one person $1,000 or 1,000 people $1, or even the same person $1,000, dollar 1,000 times? And it's a little bit counterintuitive, because I can say, give a person $1,000 now, and maybe he can do a tremendous amount with this. He can go invest it, and he can go, $1,000 at one time. He can actually really help himself. But counterintuitively, he says, no, we want to instill in us the character trait of giving, the character trait of chesed, of charitability, and therefore we should give 1,000 times $1, because in the end, this will bear more fruit. This will bear more fruit, obviously, for ourselves, but for those around us, rather than just giving one time. Another point to mention here with regard to character development, Maimonides brings this in a different place in the introduction to Ethics of the Fathers. We go back to this often, because it's a central piece of character development. Maimonides there talks about a person working gradually on changing his character. A person who is gradually, but he has an interesting method there. A person who finds it difficult to give, he needs to force himself to give, and the forcing over time, it breaks down that resistance and develops the attribute of giving. Obviously, it's very difficult for a person to. So Maimonides there, according to the text there, he says a person should go and extremely give, and that extreme the extreme difference will have a larger impact on his character development. The commentary that I heard there on Maimonides is that's obviously very challenging to demand of a person. So he needs to work obviously on the character, on the trait of giving, but he needs to build it up. He needs to give a couple cents, and then $50, and then $1, and then $2, and then working at it over time, it will build up over time. Okay, but obviously things, as my wife likes to say, things that come quickly go quickly, right? We're in it for the long haul. There's no shortcuts. Our rabbis say there's the short road that is the long road, and the long road that is the short road. And they mean exactly what we're saying. There's no shortcuts in life. You want to be a better husband, you want to be a better friend, you got to put in the work. Okay. And finally, a person has the responsibility to educate his children so that they acquire good character traits and a proper outlook on life. When someone does not educate his children, it is as though he hates them. Right, a person, right, and this is also according to the Jewish path and also according to the Noahide path. We talked about the first number of years. If it's, in the Jewish tradition, it's the first 12 or 13 years for girls and boys. And we said that according to Noahides, it's per each culture. But let's say it's around that age. Why is a person, Rabbi Shirky teaches, why is a person not commanded in the mitzvot, in the laws, and in keeping all the laws until that age? Because up until then, they are working on their character. Because the good character, giving and knowing that that I'm part of a larger system and everything that we're talking about here, that is the foundation, the bedrock upon which the Torah needs to be rested. Our sages teach that somebody who merits the Torah for him is like the elixir of life, and somebody who does not merit, God forbid, it's like poison. And what they mean to say is that if a person has bad traits and puts on this the complex and divine wisdom of the Torah, he will find within the Torah ways of being flawed, Okay, he'll find permissible ways of being conniving, and he'll say, "But look, I'm doing everything according to the letter of the law." Whereas a person who builds the character traits first and puts on the wisdom on top of this is when the Torah will really shine and be the tree of life, as it says. It's Chaim. Okay, and this is with regard to children. Right, and like, it's really unfortunate for me. I see this obviously. I saw this in my American upbringing. I'm seeing this unfortunately also in secular circles here in Israel. Also, even in some religious circles, people like giving to their children with no end, like unbridled love. Our sages teach. We passed this period of time a number of months ago, but they talk about. I think we may have mentioned it's called the counting of the Omer. It's a period of time between Passover and Shavuot, the Pentecost, and during that period of time, there's a special commandment. During that time, the Kabbalists, they teach that each day in that 49-day period of counting represents a different character trait. And one of them I remember particularly, it's called chesed shebagvura, the kindness which is within the strictness. And translating this into modern terms, it's what's called tough love. Okay, I saw a wonderful short video. If you like, I can try to find it and send it to you all. But it speaks of a mother who, God forbid, shouldn't be upon any of you, but the child goes, into evil ways and gets involved with drugs. And he gets, somehow or another, gets put into a rehab program, and he escapes or something in the middle of the program. And he says, "Mom, please let me in the house." And she is crying to herself and fighting with herself, thinking, "Should I let him in or should I not let him in? He hasn't finished the program. This could do him damage. But he's my son. I need to let him in. I'm going to push away my own son." And she fights with herself and doesn't let him in. She says, I love you. It's because I love you that I'm doing this. In the end, he finishes the program and he succeeds. And he succeeds in overcoming. I went off a little bit of a tangent, but yeah, just because of unfortunately what I see on the streets here and also what I saw in my upbringing in America, just like unbridled giving to children, it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy, and knowing the proper measurements of everything that we're talking about, teaching kids the right way, also know when to give them rules. This is how my rabbi's wife in America, she says that our job as parents is to set up our children to be proper functioning members of society, also Rabbi Sherky speaks about as parents, we're not meant to be friends with our children. It doesn't mean we need to be mean, and we don't need to be on purpose to be distant with them. But he says if a parent is their child's friend, they gained a friend and lost a parent. There is a certain manner of hierarchy, and this is very important in a child's nefesh, in a child's upbringing, to give them the proper value system to be functioning members of society. Fine. We're holding at 9:05. I think we'll continue for the section of proper conduct, and we'll see how far we get. I don't think we'll get through all of chapter 14. Okay. Obviously, tons of food for thought here. As I mentioned, this chapter, it's about character development. There's what to be said about every one of these. We could talk, I think, just an hour on each one of these clauses. I know I'm not doing justice, but you please, read afterwards for yourselves, as we've encouraged in the past. Please get yourself a copy. It's Rabbi Shirk. I was at his house on this past Friday. He showed me the newest edition of Brit Shalom in Turkish. Okay, and I mentioned to him Michaela's hard work in getting it into Italian, and he blessed you all in your learning and in getting the teachings out.
I asked him today if he already speaks fluently Turkish.
Right? Yeah, he needs to practice every one so he can communicate with the students.
I must say that it's much easier to speak with Turkish people than the England people, but this is between me and them.
There's I think maybe some cultural barriers also. Fine. So let's see. We can get through proper conduct, and we'll see how far we get. So clause number 8: a person should be very careful not to behave in a manner that will lead to desecration of God's name. In other words, that will bring shame to the name of the Lord, or to his Torah, or his commandments, or to the nation of Israel. And everything a person does that brings honor to God, Torah, or Israel sanctifies God's name. Okay, so on one hand, you could say, "Well, I don't care what those around me think. I'm going in my path, and if other people look at me in a certain way, that's their problem." But the Torah is teaching us here, and it's also taught in ethics of in ethics of the fathers, that the way other people see you is should in fact be important to us. If maybe I heard a story of rabbis who were incredibly meticulous with their taxes and with their charity to the penny, and this the consecration, right, the opposite of, or the sanctification of God's name that took place was tremendous. And so too it could be the exact opposite when a person says, a person who is acting shady in business dealings. Unfortunately, we have pretty famous examples of Jews who did certain business misdealings, and what a tremendous stain this puts on the nation of Israel and Torah and God. And so we're all emissaries. We're all messengers of God's word, for the Jewish community, for the Noahide community, for those coming close, wanting to come close to the Creator, and to bring His will into the world. One of my rabbis said, this was really at the beginning of my path. He says, "Lee, if you put on a kippah and you go to Tel Aviv, you should know that everybody looks at you as a rabbi." And I said, "What do you? I just started. I don't even know how to make the blessings and all this." He says, "No, you go to Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is a relatively secular area, and I'm really unfortunate. Some people don't even know like the ABCs of Judaism." He says, "You go with a kippah into Tel Aviv, you're a rabbi. That's it. People are going to ask you questions. People are going to look at you, and the way they interpret your behavior is very important." So obviously, it's there's a certain amount of responsibility.
Lee, can you take a question from YouTube?
Please.
We're getting into a lot of questions about Rambam's Mishnah Torah Sefer Madah. Is it some good material for Noahide to learn from? But this last question by James B., he says, how much of the character traits studied during the counting of the Omer apply to Noahide's observance of Sukkot?
Of Sukkot. I think we mentioned in the past that Noahides are not required in the commandments of Sukkot, and that Noahides who find a certain inclination can take on and try certain commandments, and each person should do it according to their level. But with regard to the practical lessons taught from the character traits of the Omer, I think they're very pertinent also to Jews and also to Noahides. I don't see a difference there. What we just talked about with tough love, this is pertinent to every human being, anybody who wants to be a parent or a teacher.
Excellent. And Roberta's asked, would you suggest Noahides to follow the Jewish spiritual path of Musar? And I told her that ethics is definitely the base of all character development.
No doubt, and we've mentioned in the past. I think like step number one is ethics of the fathers. Get a good commentary. You can get them in English. There's a wonderful series. I think it's put out by the Art Scroll publisher. You can also just look on Chabad, Chabad.org,
Torah.org.
Torah.org. I'm not familiar with, but there's wonderful commentaries. You can get them also in English on ethics of the fathers. Then, there are classic works. It is important to keep in mind. It is important to put into context. Some of these works were put into, were published many centuries ago, and certain teachings there need to be, I don't want to say like watered down, but translated into modern language. Certain things there are pertinent. That's why, as we mentioned at the beginning of the class, even Torah is forbidden to learn if a person doesn't have a rabbi, because again, things can be taken out of context. Right. But there are some classic works. We've mentioned here Duties of the Heart. We've mentioned I think there are it's called also Hilchot Deot. I don't know how to translate it into English, but the beginning sections of the Mishnah Torah also have teachings on character development. there are a slew of like classic works, and by all means, these are things, these are teachings that are pertinent to any human being looking to shine spiritually.
Right. We see, based on what you got up on the screen, you can see in Rabbi Uri Shirky's subnotes. I mean, he's quoting the Mishnah Torah, Mesilat Yesharim.
Right.
These are very, very important works that I would encourage any Noahide to get familiar with. Mishnah Avot 4:1. I mean, these are the classics that if it has to do with ethics, you usually can't go wrong.
I totally agree, Dan. And the Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lutzato, who's the one the author of Mesilat Yesharim, I think it's called The Path of the Just in English.
Yeah.
So he writes in the beginning of his book there, I'm not coming to teach you anything new. He
Right.
says that I'm not coming to teach you anything new. What am I coming to teach you? I'm coming to teach you things you already know, but maybe you forgot. Maybe you put them on the side. Maybe, it's been a while. And so too with all these teachings. There are things that come to us so naturally, but we need a little bit of a slap in the face, if you will. A little bit of taking time. One of my rabbis taught that some of the guys, they go into the yeshiva, into the halls, into the study hall, and they learn Talmud all day long. And there's tons to learn there, and it's very, very deep and very broad. Especially if you add additional sources to it. And he says, Rabbi, I don't have any time for the works of Musar, the works of character development. And he says to him, set aside for yourself a couple of minutes and you'll see that you have an hour. Because you start and you realize, wow, like I need to stop, I need to think. I also need to think about introspect about even my Torah learning. Do I really need to be only learning Jewish law all the time? Or maybe I need to be learning, Emunah. I need to be learning about faithfulness, how to bring God into my life more in my marriage, in my whatever. So yeah, it's totally pertinent to everybody at every stage of life.
I love the Ramchal's material. He's such a systematizer. He helps the logical mind break things down and digest.
Very systematic. I agree. He has another book. It's called Derech Hashem. I guess the ways of God, or the way of God, or the ways of God. I think it's also put out by Art Scroll. And there too, he's very systematic about his breaking down the fundamentals of faith. And so too with the Path of the Just, which is on the Mesilat Yesharim here, as you see. Let's see how far. Okay, so here we talk about the tremendous responsibility, but also at the same time the tremendous meaning coming with being an emissary of God, being somebody who is espousing Torah teachings in the world. This is clause number 8. Let's see how far we can get. I see here 13. It's too much. Okay, we'll do a couple more minutes. Clause number 9. It is fitting for a person to stand by his word, to verbalize what he truly holds in his heart, and to distance himself from lies. I think we spoke about this in the past, standing by one's word, as I like to teach my children. Mishe mavdiach tzarich lekayem. Whoever promises needs to fulfill the promise. And this God teaches us also directly in his different names in the Torah. I think some of them we've already encountered. You'll see them also in Rashi's commentary. But this is why I'm also very careful in what I promise to my children, right? Because if I want my word to be of value, then I need to make sure that it is of value to me, right? It's not like that sometimes you hear on the streets, talk is cheap. The Torah is totally 100% against this, right? As we said in the past, the world was created with God's speech coming to teach us. You can create worlds. You can create tremendous holiness and build in this world with speech if you stand by your word. And unfortunately, the opposite. So too, our sages teach that one who's very, very careful with his speech, and he's very careful in standing by his word, so too, God is careful to stand by the requests of this person, somebody who sanctifies his speech. Our sages also talk about, we spoke about above, we spoke about being content with little. And this is in the physical sense. There are also those who are very, very careful in when they communicate. They communicate the bare minimum to get the message across, but not to overbear. So in any event, standing by your word. to verbalize what he truly holds in his heart. Right? I think we spoke about it in the past as well. One of the negative commandments, one of the commandments that thou shalt not. It's not to bear a grudge against one's brother, neighbor. That needs to be communicated. It's obviously a good question how to communicate it. It doesn't mean that the Torah is coming to teach you if you have something wrong against somebody, go and shout at him. Okay, obviously this needs to be done in a wise way, and we need to learn the framework of that commandment as well. And obviously to distance oneself from lies, and this goes along with everything in the clause, everything we've learned about. Let's just see here. Hang on, I'm going to hold off with the questions just for a couple more minutes, and then we'll take the question. Clause number 10, a person should not do anything to arouse suspicion that he is a thief or that he is involved in any other wrongdoing. This goes to the clause that we talked about above, about desecrating God's name. And again, it's like we need to be careful about how is what I say and do going to be interpreted. Not only is it actually a good thing, also how is it going to be interpreted? Okay, clauses 11 and 12 are related. I think we'll wrap up with these two. A person should neither cause a blind person to stumble nor curse someone who is deaf. Similarly, a person should not cause someone else to violate a commandment, since the violator is likened to someone who is blind, since he did not know what he did was forbidden. For this same reason, it is forbidden to assist others in committing sins. I think we spoke about this in the past with regards to giving charity. We need to make sure that we're giving to reputable places. So too in clause 12, giving harmful counsel is akin or is like causing a blind person to stumble, and all the more so if done for the benefit of the malefactor. Right? One of the underlying principles behind this not causing the blind to stumble, one of the underlying principles is what's called arvut. I don't know how to properly translate this word, but basically that we have a shared destiny. And when I see you as my brother, when I see you as my friend, when I love you and I want what's best for you, why would I want to cause you to stumble, right? Why would I have a good friend and I know that he has a problem with alcohol? Why would I go? I'm okay. I can go have a beer and that's it, and I can go home. Why would I go and invite him to a place that I know it's going to be hard for him? Okay, and so too in every avenue of life. Okay, I think we'll close off with this. We have plenty more to discuss. We have a question here in the chat. Dat tevunot. Okay, so Dan mentions here another one of Ramchal's teachings. It's called Dat tevunot. I'm sorry, I don't know how to properly translate this into English. It's a very, very deep work, and it talks about. It basically discusses and tries to explain the way that God rules the world in the knowing heart. Thank you, Dan. It's a very complex work, and if this is true, if needing a rabbi to learn ethics of the fathers is true, it's all the more so true for a work like Dat Tevunot. It's a very, very complex work, but it's fundamental. I'm actually learning now Rabbi Shirky's series on this work. So
beautiful.
Great point, Dan. And Rabbi Moshe Chaim Letzato, Knowing God's Plan, Art Scroll, Uwana is saying, so the rabbi that we're mentioning here, I think it's sometimes written like this, Ramchal, or Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lutzato. You can look him up on Wikipedia. He has some fundamental works. He was like an extraordinary Torah giant and Kabbalist. He lived to a very young age. I think he passed away at the age of like 38 or 40. He lived in Italy, and he put out some fundamental works that are still very, very pertinent today. But again, as we said, some of them are very complex, and as they also draw from Kabbalistic teachings. Absolutely need a guide to guide you through learning those teachings. But some of them are fundamental. I mean, Path of the Just, that's somebody that somebody can pick up with a good commentary and learn. Great. I think we'll hold off here. We have more to learn, but I do hope that we can wrap up next week and do a small celebration, because then we have the week following the 9th of Av, which I think we'll probably do a break, Rabbi Chaim, no? We can't hear Rabbi Chaim. Lo shomim.
Yes, next week we're going to learn, and hopefully we're going to finish this book. Then we need to do a break because we are doing a very big fast, the 24 hours, 25 hours of fast that is finishing at the time of our lesson. It's finishing at 8:20. We're starting every time at 8. So we have the pray there, and then we're eating something after 25 hours. So most probably we'll do a break. So we need to finish next week. Lee, it's on your shoulders.
Okay, everybody, you got to get your thinking caps on. Get some coffee. Next week we're gonna plow through.
Awesome. And hopefully we get Travis back. Where's he? I haven't saw him for a couple of weeks.
This is true.
Again, Travis has family visitors this week and sends his apologies.
Awesome. He's always asking great questions.
This is true. Great to see you all. I missed you last week. And hopefully see you next week.
All right. So are we winding her down, Rabbi?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to shut it down for today. And you guys heard it from the Rabbi. We will be on next week, same time. We hope you'll join us. I want to appreciate shout out to James B. and Roberta for asking questions on YouTube. If you guys got any sharp questions, feel free to pen them down, and we'll try and get them to Lee or to Rabbi Goldberg as needed. And we appreciate all the interaction. And if you ever want to reach out and you want to get the link to join in the Zoom room with everybody else, I mean, it's always nice to interact. It's good to see Lisette down there, Dominican Republic. I think they got a hurricane going through there, and it's nice that you're joining us, Lisette. What's the weather like down there? Are you guys in the middle of a storm?
Yes. No, it's okay. It started to be a hurricane. This is the hurricane season, but it turned into a storm, and thank God everybody's fine.
Good. Yeah, you're in our prayers.
By the way, Michaela from Germany, we have also the Brit Shalom in German language. You know that? We can't hear you. Still, we can't hear you. Okay.
Okay, everybody.
I said I got it in English. I got it in English.
English is also good.
Yeah.
Fine.
All right,
Fine,
so we're going to
fine.
sign out for the week, folks. You guys have a
Yes.
wonderful, wonderful week.
Great to see you all.
You
Bye,
too.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.